Okay, welcome back to Heads and Tails. I'm Henry Faber, one of the co-founders at Opperden, and I'm delighted and really privileged today to have John Harper with me, who's the co-founder and CEO of Future Foundations and someone I've known quite a long time. Future Foundations came about after John's first creation, which was Creation Limited. I'm hoping we'll hear a bit more about helping university students get the most out of their time at uni. And he then moved on to setting up Future Foundations, which is now a well-known big hitter in social enterprise and this kind of social impact space. So lots to share, I'm sure. They design and deliver pioneering training programs and experiences for young people between the ages of 7 and 24 all over the world, and are a great resource for teachers and adults of any kind too who want to inspire the next generation. I know that John has been responsible for designing and delivering all sorts of other things for national charities, setting up social enterprises. He's trained university students, he's mentored students through securing funding, and he's even completed an MSc himself in charity marketing and fundraising from Cass Business School. So John, I know you'll have lots more to share. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Henry. Really delighted to be here and to be part of this. I think it's a really important podcast that you're putting together.
Thank you. That's kind. Well, you know we're obsessed with mentoring here at Opperden, and I know you're obsessed with mentoring too. So I'd love your reflections on that. Did you have a mentor? Do you have one now? Any perspective you're happy to share would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose from the moment I kind of heard what you guys are doing in the mentoring space, really excited by it, because I see the value in mentoring and have done throughout my life, I suppose. You said it, you've got a mentor. I think I've had lots of mentors. I think probably the number one was probably my dad, because he set up his own business from home after being made redundant. So probably just seeing that and going through that journey of watching how he went about that. And then I suppose the people that kind of jumped out of me in terms of my sort of career mentors is that I've had two. One called Justin Beavis, and another one called Tanya Watson. And I'd say Justin sort of is more like the entrepreneurial one, who's created a restaurant chain and is raising serious investment around the world. And he took me out to Dubai and helped me sort of pitch to a sheik in a weekend. So he took me on some interesting and kind of helped me think big, think about what's possible. And then Tanya is more sort of a coach, and kind of then helps me sort of more on that inner development. So I think it's been really helpful to kind of have more than one coach mentor over time, and for them to help you in different ways and help you develop both your aiming high and thinking big, but also how do you develop yourself as a leader as well. And both of those, I was looking back, have been supporting me sort of ad hoc since about 2008. So best part of about 16 years. I've been catching up with them, probably monthly or bi-monthly, sort of having check-in calls and helping them sort of with the different sort of ways in which Future Foundations has developed over that time.
That is amazing mentor or mentoring consistency. I love it. I wish that I could say it were possible to put in place most mentoring relationships for that period of time. I think you've nailed it. What about if we go way back to school? What was John like as a small child in primary or as a teenager? Would you be shocked with the journey that your life's taken, or perhaps there's an anecdote that can help us understand what you were like at school?
Yeah, I suppose when I was thinking about that, probably like the two sort of big moments that came to life to me was, one, I suppose I did rowing from the age of 11, and then had coaching about being part of a rowing team, and went from being, I suppose I had asthma, didn't really engage in sport, couldn't catch a ball, let alone throw one. So I didn't see myself as sporty. Then I found rowing, and then which required persistence, resilience, drive, determination. And that sport then I went into, and then had a coaches that kind of believed in me. And then I went up to sort of national competitive level. So I think that experience of then going from not being sporty to competing to winning and having that experience probably plays out in how I go about thinking about life and the resilience you need to kind of keep going. So I think that sort of endurance sport experience definitely kind of informs my thinking, but also having the coaching. And then when I went to university, I then became a rowing coach. So I suppose that journey of going from sort of doing the sport, being coached, experiencing that, and then going into a career or kind of helping others to reach their potential, I think came from having that experience at school. And I suppose the other side, I would say, is I had this experience of I signed up at school to do an expedition to India, World Challenge. And that's something that at school, like at the age of 11, I saw it on the wall and thought, I want to do that when I'm a sixth former, and kind of inspired me throughout my school. And that's what I think in schools, like having these inspirational experiences that people can think about and land. I then signed up as soon as that came out, and I signed up to be the deputy leader of that expedition because I wanted to kind of have a leadership responsibility, but I didn't want to be the leader. At the first meeting, the leader of my peer leader said, "Oh, I'm not actually going to go to India because I've just realised you can't stay at a hotel in the Indian Himalayas, and we'll be camping. I'm not going to do that." And then I said, "Oh, okay, right. So as deputy leader, I will help find a leader for the group." So I said to everyone, "Who's going to lead this?" And everyone said, "Oh, who's in favour of John being the leader?" Everyone put their hands up. I was like, and then I was voted in to become the leader of this expedition. And then for the next year and a half, I had to lead my peers through planning an expedition to India. And that experience of I didn't see myself as a leader necessarily at school. I didn't like speaking in front of people. My sort of feedback was always like, you speak up and blah. I now had a career of presentation, speaking, and that all goes back to, I think, that experience of like falling into a leadership position, and then realizing almost leadership is a responsibility, not a title, and that informs a lot of our programs and our work in school, where I see young people who feel like they're not confident. Those are the ones that I love almost to go, how do we draw that out of them? And actually, if we can teach you a few skills of being able to present and you can become able to do that, then having that strength or ability to be able to communicate and present is important for life. So I suppose, school definitely shaped me and those experiences, and those things sort of like probably you see through all of our programs and activities where we sort of focus in on those sort of softer skills that I think are really important.
Thank you. The loads of great stuff there. I mean, that focus on experiential learning and the super curricular almost of like gathering successful moments as you go, I think is super powerful. There've probably been some really tough ones too, maybe in terms of, setting up the organization or various organizations you've been involved with. Has there been an obvious toughest moment or something you can remember that's been particularly as a challenge?
Yeah, I suppose I always think of running a small organization, and it's like a roller coaster. So you have the highs, but you also definitely have the lows. And as an organization, we secured kind of big grant funding from government and contracts. And then when those contracts kind of come to an end and there's recontracting, then that leads to you having to then, change your team. And I suppose for me, I'm very much a people person, build the team, build the community. So I think that's the bit that I found the hardest, when we had to kind of change the team. And we haven't been able to sort of take it to the next level. And, I think it was December 2019 when we had a government contract ready to sign, but I said, "Oh, this is unsignable." But I've been working on bidding for it for about a year and a half. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going to walk away from this. So instead of signing it and retaining an office and opening a new one, I had to the next day get on the train and go and say to the team, "Sorry, I'm not signing the contract, it's unsignable." And then walk away from having to living a program that I was so passionate about in 2012, 2019.
Yeah, and having that burden of it on your shoulders, and how much of it or how little of it you can communicate, empathize, really difficult. And Everests and peaks, there must have been some real standout moments. I'm sure they're regular, but anything that particularly comes to mind as a highlight?
But yeah, I mean, there's so many, but I think the one that kind of really jumps out, and I think it's probably in that early stages of building the organization, was when we won the contract to deliver the National Citizen Service in 9 cities. So we really, and that was a big government, tender. 18,000 words, sales of numbers. And for us, as an organization then of about, 5-6 people, we then secured a very big contract, and then had to scale up and then go and deliver that. And that whole journey, whole experience. I'm still in touch with a lot of the people that kind of were involved from that 2012 year. Everyone kind of goes, that was the year when Future Foundations hit the map. Literally, we were doubled our size of our team, had over 150 delivery staff that kind of worked for us in the summer. And we also, it was a well-funded project, so we were able to do some really exciting and innovative things, such as work with skill sports who are former army, and we actually took young people into the woods. They had to hand in their mobile phones on day one, and then the young people had to survive in the woods on tarpaulin and rope, and then build their own structure, and then go on a journey of building their own community over a week. And I suppose being able to I wrote that down on paper and then submitted it as a bid, got the contract, and then had to go about delivering that. And we did it in spades.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, it strikes me, it's almost like the work you've done is like being an architecture firm or like putting on a West End show. It's like this huge, it must have massive adrenaline rush as you build, and then a sort of fear on the down. Yeah, it's just fascinating, but so cool to have impacted so many people in so many different ways as well. And that variety, I'm sure, has been great. Thinking on variety, we love content and we love sharing content with people as much as we can. And I want to know whether you're a reader, a watcher, a listener. What does it look like for you? Where do you find the time? What have you most enjoyed recently? Give us a sense of what life outside of the office looks like for you, with what you're digesting at any one time.
Yeah, I'd love to read more. I don't read enough, so I'd say that. But Audible,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, Audible's really helping me sort of, capture and listen to some great books and keep up. But I suppose there's some standout like books and things that I've had over time. So whenever a team member joins our team, I give them Jim Collins' Good to Great for the social sector. And it's a small like adaptation of that book. But it's just the most phenomenal book where it gets you to think about how does an organization, almost survive and thrive in the long term. And it talks about sort of leadership from the servant leadership point of view, which really aligns, I suppose, with us as an organization, what we're trying to achieve, but almost helps you think about how does an organization really focus on its mission. It talks about hedgehogs and boxes and who wins, and it's basically a hedgehog with spikes, and that's the thing that's special about it. And it's almost saying to you, as an organization, as a group of people, what is your hedgehog concept? And then lean into that and do that, and then get the right people on the bus and go. And so all these different concepts that's got in that book, we kind of use to inform how we think and build our strategy out. And so our hedgehog concept being social action, and then from that, it's got other great concepts, which I would just encourage any sort of person that's setting up a new organization or project or social enterprise to read that book. And then my last sort of big recommendation is just Seth Godin and his blog. If you sign up to that, you get this daily email where he talks about how do you get stuff that matters to happen. And it just gives you an anecdote and a story. And it's probably the one email that comes into my inbox every day, and I almost read it. And I see it as almost an amazing kind of way to do personal development and reflection just by having a look at that. And again, with my team, part of my induction, welcome to Future Foundations. You need to read this book and you need to sign up to this podcast. And this podcast will come into your inbox then for every day that you're with us and hopefully beyond. And will really help you think about how do you actually ship great projects that make a real difference and impact.
Love that. Thank you. Both going on the agenda here at Oppenheimer Education. We'll see what the feedback's like. I'll come back to you. Thank you. An unpopular opinion. I mean, education is a divided place broadly, and yet feels so cohesive in other ways. But maybe there's something you feel is an opinion you've had over the years that's less than popular, or perhaps stirs the pot a little.
Yeah. So I suppose the reflection kind of going back, I mean, I was part of a group that was trying to kind of lobby government on how to invest in social action. And I remember sitting in the meetings with the organisations. I was like, well, why do we try to lobby government to kind of invest when we almost could all just work together and just make this happen? And I suppose I was sort of the odd soul in that, and I actually worked with most of the organisations around that table, those different projects. And, we'd meet monthly, and then we would then give our advice and we would lobby. But actually then when government came to deliver what they delivered, it wasn't kind of what we were suggesting. So I suppose I've always been of the belief that we can't wait for governments. We should support them, engage with them, but we shouldn't rely upon them to solve the issues of our time. And almost we as people and citizens, and I think like John Alexander, who sort of talked about the citizens take, we need to think about how do we support and enable us to almost work cross-sector to kind of solve these issues and bring those that are up for it along with us. And I always say about the Margaret Mead quote of, never doubt the ability of a small group of people to change the world. In fact, they're the only ones that have. And that quote I say to my team often, because we are a small and mighty team, like who've done programs UK-wide and globally. And like, that's how you make change happen, by just sometimes making it small, doing it well, and then taking it to scale, and then bringing the people and partners along with you. And through partnership, you can make great things happen. And we work really closely with like independent schools who help us open up their facilities. And that's been an incredible part of our journey, is been partnering with amazing organizations, small and mighty ourselves, these big organizations, and not necessarily being reliant on or thinking the government's going to come and solve the issue. And I think like at the moment, I'm looking at free school meals and lunch, and everyone's lobbying for free school meals and lunch for primary. It's happening in London, which is great, and my children love that. But secondary schools and food and lunch, what's happening there? There doesn't seem to be any sort of activity happening. And that's where we're sort of working on a new initiative to kind of think about how do we enable young people to have access to good, nutritious food. And I don't see that government or even is going to do it. So we need almost organizations to dynamically come up with ideas and then to work across sector to make that happen.
Do you ever get a frustration with the difficulties of being an external organization working with schools or with the school sector, not so much at government level, but individual schools? Because I feel like we're both almost part of like a shadow sector that has such strong intentions, and small but mighty in a way. And yeah, we have some wonderful school partners, but often, breaking down that barrier or working cohesively, positively with schools could be really difficult. Any reflections on that based on years of doing so?
Yeah, I think school education is very difficult, and I suppose it comes from what are their priorities and what are the priorities that are set by government, by parents that influence them what the school can prioritize. For me, I think we lean into the schools that kind of understand what we're trying to do and want to partner with us, pilot with them, and then other schools then see the benefits and then want to join the journey. So there are, a certain group of schools that I sort of lean into, and then we demonstrate the results with them. And I suppose our sort of theory of change is then we can then bring others along over time.
It's like Maggie Alfonsi's video on leadership. You need a courageous follower, right?
Yeah, no, I think that, and that we play that that video to our young people, and we say, "How do you build a movement?" And it's going, well, it's sort of going from that 2 to 3, and then 3 to 7, and launched a new initiative last year, and sort of got one primary school, and then as soon as the photos went up, other schools sort of reached out and said, "Oh, actually, can we do it?" And then we got another secondary school, and then we went back to another partner, and now they're doing it. And now other people are now being touched. Now they're seeing the graphs and the photos and the photography and the evidence of impact. It sort of increasingly then becomes easier, but almost it's sometimes you just got to find those bold partners to work with.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job of it. We are nearly out of time. A final quick question. What one piece of advice would you have for those in the sector? And I say sector because not everyone on this is a teacher, but everyone is interested in social impact and education. So a piece of advice that can serve us across the sector.
Yeah, I suppose my big one is just, keep building and nurturing your network and your community. And I think, almost if you do that over time, slowly but surely you'll realize you've actually got people to draw upon and to work with. And I think that's what enables us to kind of do our projects and programs, is like reach out to people that I've met along the journey from a whole wide range of backgrounds. And I suppose my other message just would be, don't believe the hype. It's not easy. And you are going to need sort of friends and mentors to kind of help you. And I think sometimes, even I can do it. I'm excited to share on LinkedIn what you're doing, but actually behind the scenes is a lot of hard work. And and almost, I think it's almost people need to realize sometimes that if you want to make big, great things and be bold and courageous, actually it's going to be a roller coaster ride, and realizing that, and then realizing that you just need to keep good friends around you and actually do go and ask for a mentor, do ask for advice. It's unusual actually for people to reach out and ask for advice, or to, I only get the odd time where people, I shouldn't say this, the odd time when people reach out to me and sort of ask you for things, and you're almost like, why don't people do that more? Like, and I think that I'd almost encourage people to almost go about, find the person that could be your mentor, just ask for them for a conversation, offer to buy them a coffee, and you never know where that could take you. So be bold and be courageous, and just go for it.
A lovely way to finish. John, thank you so much. Lots of really sage advice, experience gathered over many years doing this, and I know this will be a really valuable resource for people, so thank you. And we wish you well with Can Team and all the other awesome initiatives and projects you guys are pushing along. So thank you so much for the time, and look forward to sharing more of this.
Thank you, Andrew, and keep going and doing what you're doing. It's fantastic work.